This video is sponsored by Bombas. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Handyman Graham, and today we're making solid wood floating shelves on a budget. So we're already at over 100,000 subscribers. Thanks so much for all your support. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. So Alexandra's tasked me with making some shelves for Niv's bedroom. Niv already had some shelves in her bedroom that were half falling off the wall, so this is the perfect opportunity to go in there, make some custom floating shelves. So the first thing I gotta do is draw some ideas on paper. I believe we're gonna be doing 3 shelves. I'm gonna have the shelves kind of like kiss against one of the corners nearest the window, and it's gonna come out and it's gonna round itself back into the wall. While there are so many different ways that you can do this, I'm gonna show you how to do it in a way that kind of allows you to make it from scratch. So I'm gonna upgrade these shelves with something custom and I'm gonna show you how to do it on a budget. So I have the idea down on paper. In order to do this, I need my measurements to be so perfect. I haven't been to Niv's place yet. I have like a little jigs or like a little hack, you can call it, that's used to measure the negative space. Guaranteed this negative space that these shelves are going into are not perfectly parallel. They're different sizes, different angles compared to the back wall. So I'm gonna just cut down a couple scrap pieces of wood and I'll show you how to make this in real life. I have these extra slats that I made for that slat room divider that y'all loved. I'm just gonna cut these down to 65 inches. 65 inches is just the rough measurement I have. This is gonna be our straight long piece of wood for the jig. Okay, now that I have the long piece, I can cut the trapezoid pieces that are going on either end. So you have this long piece that spans the entire width of the cavity that we're gonna be putting a shelf into. And then I'm gonna put this piece on the very end, like so. I'm gonna put a single screw, so that allows me to move this around. So I'm able to just move this around, find the exact angle of this left-hand wall. Then I can put a second screw in to secure that angle down, and then do the exact same for the other side. So I'm constructing this jig like inside the cavity so that I can take it back and literally just trace it down on paper. I'll have the measurement from this corner to that corner, this corner to the other corner, and I can make this shelf slide into this cavity like a glove. Okay, you may be wondering why my bike is in here, and unfortunately my car is incapacitated right now. I will have it fixed for next week, but in the meantime, I have to use my bike and my trusty bike trailer. I'm just gonna load up the wood and my tools into the trailer, and I'm gonna head on over to Niv. Oh, what? It's raining. It's raining pretty hard. Okay, I'm gonna get biking to Niv's. I'm happy that I get to bike to a makeover. It's actually quite close to here. I'm just gonna take it slow. I don't even have a lot of weight on my trailer. Yeah, I'm happy that I'm not a car stuck in traffic right now, which is great. All right, so this is the first time I'm stepping foot into Niv's apartment. First time I'm seeing this little niche in person. So I am making 3 separate templates for the 3 different shelves because guaranteed, like the measurement that you have at the bottom isn't gonna be the same at the top. Got my 2 trapezoid pieces. And I'm just gonna put one in the corner like so. Got my trusty nail gun. I'm just gonna tack. Okay, there you go. I got my first template. So this will be bottom shelf, and I'm gonna screw it together. There's like a ton of different ways that you can make these templates. I've seen like double-sided tape, you can use screws, but I find what's easiest here is just to use like a little simple brad nailer. You just kind of like just nail it all together, and you can take it, put it on the ground, and secure it properly afterwards. You know, I could just save a lot of time and energy here by making 1 template, but we're going through all this effort to create these built-in floating shelves, so we may as well go the extra mile, create 3 separate templates. So now that I got all the shelf templates, I'm gonna take them back to the workshop, and it's time to make the shelves. Okay, I'm back in the workshop. I have my templates for the shelves, and I'm just gonna show you how I can create a shelf from this template. So I'm just figuring out like how much material I need to get for these floating shelves. I think I'm gonna use 2x6s. It's a really nice day out and the hardware store is just like down the street. So I think I'm just gonna take my little cart and some ratchet straps and go for a walk. Just me and my cart. Going to Home Hardware. This is also material that anybody can get from like any local home improvement store. The wood itself, I think it was like 58 bucks with tax, so it came to over just like $60 or something. You can do it on a budget for like 20 bucks a shelf. Like I literally just walked down the street and like picked it up and like brought it back on my little wagon. Like that's how approachable this project is. It's harder than I thought it was gonna be. It was just like a little bit too heavy to carry on my shoulders. So yeah, this little dolly I made really comes in handy sometimes. Almost there. I've been absolutely loving my Bombas socks. I've been wearing them on long runs, at the gym, and even at the makeover that we filmed last week. Alexandra and I both discovered we were both wearing Bombas socks at the same time. They're just so comfy to wear at work. I've also ordered a pair of the Sunday slippers in dark elm, which are currently on the way, but I'm so excited to wear them around my apartment all winter long. So I know men can be kind of tough to shop for, but I can say with confidence that the men in your life would be thrilled to receive a pair of Bombas socks. So if you're like me, I love getting pairs of socks for Christmas. I love Bombas because there's a style and type of sock for everybody's preferences. And with Bombas Give Back program, every item purchased is an item donated. Bombas donates the top 3 items needed in shelters: t-shirts, socks, and underwear. So you're doing some real good with your gifting, which is so important, especially around the holidays. They also have gift guides on their website, so you can find a gift for anyone on your list. I'm eyeing some of the merino wool blend calf socks for skiing and winter running because they'll keep my feet warm, but also dry with their natural moisture wicking properties. You can use my code GRAHAM for 20% off your first purchase with the link in the description or the QR code on the screen. They also have a 100% happiness guarantee, which means you can return or exchange an item for free if you're unhappy with it. And they also have international shipping to over 200 countries. Okay, back to the shelf DIY. Yay, I got the wood back on my little cart. So first, gonna cut these down and start gluing them together. And I'll just show you guys some tips and tricks on how I do this without joiner, without a planer, just by trying to keep the boards as like flat as possible. So I'm gonna get started on that. I'll stop talking. So before we can glue all these pieces of wood together, first I have to cut each board down to size using my miter saw. And then just give it a nice, crisp, clean, straight cut using my table saw and a table saw jig. And then I'm putting it through the table saw one more time, but without the jig, and that just gives a nice parallel edge to the one that we just made. Okay, it's the moment of truth. Let's see how these boards line up. Look at that. It's actually gonna be like this, right? So that we have the curve of the shelf and then we can trace out the whole shape on here. So we're gonna glue up these boards together. I'm gonna use my biscuit joiner. You don't need to use a biscuit joiner. However, I did get this biscuit joiner for 40 bucks off Facebook Marketplace and I use it so frequently. I use it for like every time I'm gluing something together. It makes the whole gluing process so much easier. Just aligns all the boards so that you're not like freaking whacking it with a hammer trying to align them all together. I love using my biscuit joiner. If you can find one on Facebook Marketplace, I highly recommend it. So I'm just applying some wood glue to the biscuits and to all the edges. So I'm just clamping everything together until the wood glue dries and just putting some pieces of wood across the face of the shelves. So I'm still learning all this woodworking lingo, and I found out recently that these pieces of wood you put across the face of the shelf or whatever you're gluing up, they're called cauls, C-A-U-L-S. And this just prevents the wood from cupping under the clamping pressure. So I'm just putting these aside until the wood glue dries. All right, so the boards have all been glued up. I think before I cut them to shape, I'm going to sand them down just so I have like a nice smoother surface to work with here. Usually with better quality wood, I would go in with my electric belt sander, but this is construction grade lumber. It's been sitting outside. It's kind of rough. So I'm taking my electric planer and just like shaving like the 1/64th of an inch off the surface. And it's just getting rid of all those like scratches, gouges. I'm doing 3 of these shelves, so I'm just speeding up the process a little bit. But if you don't have a planer at home, which you probably don't, a belt sander works just fine. It just takes a little bit longer. Then I'm going in and sanding everything down with a 50 grit belt sander. Then I'm just finishing it off with 60 grit random orbital sander just to clean everything up and leave it in this nice clean condition until I cut everything down. Okay, so I have the 2 shelves sanded down. As you can see in the background, I have the 3rd shelf glued up. I didn't show that on camera because it's the exact same process, but I didn't have enough clamps to clamp that one at the same time as the other 2, so I had to do that one. But I just wanted to show you how I'm going to trace these templates onto the shelf. So there's all these like different pieces of wood, and this follows the contour of the wall. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna use some scrap pieces of wood here, and I'm just gonna kind of build what the wall would look like around this template. I'm gonna use some 2-part CA glue to like glue everything in place. And then I'm just gonna pop this away. I'm gonna have the negative space where the shelf is, and I'm just gonna trace it with a pencil, and then I'll be able to cut it out. I'm creating like a little bit of a box with some scrap wood and some instant glue, just to try to like recreate that niche around this template. And then I'm just using a pencil just to trace the outline of that niche onto the wood. Now I'm cutting out the shape of the shelves using my track saw. And a jigsaw for the rounded corner. And just to clean up the cuts, I'm sanding it with the 50 grit belt sander and the 60 grit random orbital sander again. Because we're making like a really nice rounded corner to the shelves, I thought it'd be like very complimentary to round the edges as well. So I'm just rounding the edges using a large round over bit and my router. Okay, so the boards are all profiled. Next thing I gotta do is route a little channel in the side of each shelf. I've already done this one just as an experiment, but there's a little channel all the way down. And I'm probably gonna make this one a little bit wider, a little bit deeper, so that I can make like a little hardwood bracket that will attach to the wall into the studs that will slide right into here. In order to describe what I'm doing for the viewers at home, is I had to look up another term. It's called a dado. I'm not a carpenter. I don't really know these terms. Dado is just like a groove that goes along the edge of a piece of wood. So it's like a channel, but it's not called a channel. It's called a dado. So I'm just cutting out this dado using my router and like a router guide. And this is just gonna allow the bracket to kind of slide right into this dado, just to make this installation as easy as possible. And lastly, I'm just kind of sanding everything down to 80 grit sandpaper. And then 120 grit sandpaper and just leaving it at 120. Okay, so now that the sanding is all finished, I can start working on making the brackets. So I need 6 brackets. Got a couple scrap pieces of wood here, and I'm just gonna cut them down on my table saw, make sure they fit, probably round the edges so it doesn't bind as I'm like sliding the shelf into place. I'm making these brackets out of some scrap hardwood I had laying around the workshop, making it out of like the hardest hardwood I can find because I need these to be as strong as possible. I'm cutting them down using my table saw. Then cutting them to length using my miter saw. I'm rounding the edges using my tabletop belt sander just so that like when the bracket slides into that dado shelf groove, it doesn't bind in the corners. So it's just gonna like leave a little bit of a gap, and that'll just allow for like, hopefully we can just push it into place nice and easy, or if Niv moves out, she can just remove nice and easy as well. Okay. Got the shelves sorted out, brackets sorted out. Now it's time to stain these shelves. And first I'm gonna use some pre-stained wood conditioner. I've said this before, but if you're working with softer woods like pine or spruce, the grain doesn't really take to stain all that well. And just using some pre-conditioner just helps everything just be a little bit more uniform. It allows the wood to absorb the stain a little bit more evenly. Okay, the issue is I don't have a lot of stain for 3 massive shelves, so I'm gonna be mixing some stains together. That's nice. This is just natural. I'm pretty sure it's just like a wood conditioner on its own. Just gonna thin it out a little bit, make it go a little bit further. That is a nice wood tone. That is probably what we're going for. Sandy, consistent, looks great. So I'm applying the stain using a mini roller. If you're ever like looking on the side of the can, it never says to use a mini roller, but I find a mini roller just puts the stain on nice and heavy. Because I glued a bunch of different wood together to make a panel, there's some inconsistencies in the color of each piece of wood. So I'm just applying this stain using a mini roller, and this is just gonna help cover up any inconsistencies in the color of the wood. All right, so the stain has dried. It looks great. So now I have to seal it with some clear coat just to protect it. I've got this hardwood floor finish. It's a semi-gloss. I actually found this in the garbage. It's a Nano Defense Premium Clear Floor Finish, semi-gloss, and it's water-based as well, which is great. So easy cleanup, it's not gonna smell. One thing I don't like about this clear coat is that it does go on quite milky. Don't worry, it will dry clear, but the milkiness kind of helps you with the amount that you're actually putting on the surface. So like if you notice that it's just way too milky, then you're just probably putting way too much clear coat on in one coat. So just make sure your roller or your brush is a little bit more dry if it's way too milky. And if it's not milky enough, then you want to add more finish to your roller or brush. So now that the shelves are done, it's time to install them in Niv's apartment. Okay, so this is the first time that we have a shelf in Niv's bedroom, and we're gonna see if that template method actually works as well as I think it should. I gotta split this nook into 4 pieces because we got 3 shelves. 1, 2, 3. Means that we're gonna have 1 space, 2, 3, and then 4 spaces. So whatever number I get here, 50, we'll say 58 and an 1/8. Okay, we'll just say 58. No one's gonna miss that 1/8. So then you just do quick math. 58 divided by 4 is 14.5, a nice easy number to work with. So each bracket will be 14.5 off the ground. 14.5 plus 14.5, 29. And then I can go from the top and 14.5 down here. And then I should have it. Nice, 29. So it's like, we'll just move this one up just a tiny bit. I'm thinking probably just as easy to use like a little torpedo level. And then you can just take that mark. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna put a bracket here and then a bracket on this line as well. And they're just gonna go right into the back corner and I'll just go into the studs. Guaranteed, there's gonna be a stud right here. I'm probably just gonna use 2 anchors, one here, all the way up. And then this side, let's see, and stud here. So, hollow, solid, solid. I'm putting 1 anchor in the middle just to prevent like this bracket from bending, just to prevent any sagging that might occur. This one's going on an angle because it's gonna go into a stud. Ooh. Wow. That's awesome.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah. Okay, so now it's time for the part of the video where I talk about what I learned and what I can do differently. I think these shelves turned out really great, and it just goes to show like how tried and true this template method is for creating shelves that fit into like a custom space. You know, you don't even need to use a measuring tape for this. It's just like trace, you cut, boom. It's pretty easy, pretty straightforward. My goal for this video was to try to make custom made solid wood floating shelves as cheaply as possible. And I think I accomplished that because it's like a little over $20 per shelf for solid wood shelves. Custom made, custom fit for this space is pretty impressive. If you have a funky niche in your apartment or you just want to put a floating shelf above the couch in your house, hopefully I showed you it's not as difficult as it seems and you can probably tackle it with just a limited amount of tools. Let me know in the comments what you think of this DIY project, and let me know if you're gonna take on something like this in your own apartment. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.